Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We are live in the kitchen this morning, as always. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to have a good conversation this morning. Last week, I had Attorney Jackson. We had a really productive conversation, very informative nation. Today, I have Peter with me, Coach Q. You all know him. He's here Thursday night. Sorry, we didn't show up Thursday night, which was my fault. I was with Mama's today. My baby were having her last recital for high school. Um, yeah, it's a big deal being a parent in America. I just want you to know. Back home, we were all parent, children of the village. Everybody watch out for us. We hang out, we receive, and playing marbles, Brian Sidewalk, Texas, throwing in the string shot or rubber gun. We did all of that. But in America, when it comes to being a parent, it's very competitive. The children know they're right. The children will need the support. And that's how we build our community. So parents are very involved. And this is the last of my four going to college. It was the last performance. And God, you could have heard me. My baby was blushing. Peter, I'm one of those. That's why I don't go to game. I'm one of those mom that you have to say, shut up. Because I can't shut up.
No, that's beautiful. That's
Huh?
good. I said that's beautiful. That's good. That's your baby. You should do that.
Exactly. And when she came out, she came and said, and I said, did you hear me? Kantapa, did I hear you, Mama? Everybody heard you.
Yeah,
Everybody knows my mom is here. And I'm
yeah.
like, really? I thought you don't like that. And she was just blushing. She beamed like, yeah, I mean, my husband is always there, but when I'm there, it's like everybody know Mama is there. So, Peter, let's talk about you a little bit. I'm going to talk about election. You this week, I know we both have a handful. You got more than me because you have to teach, you have to coach, and all of that. And then trying to get being an educator in America, you can never stop going to school. It's a continuous learning process environment. You have to have certain amount of credit, minimum amount. I think I get a minimum of 21 credit hours. That minimum. So meaning I'm getting almost a master's every year because you go beyond and above and beyond the 21 credit hours. And most masters here is around 45 credit hours. So you get almost close to that per se. So we're constantly learning because the environment is changing. Nothing is constant. Science is improving. History is changing. The language are being adjusted because new languages or new words are being added. So nothing is started like we know it in Liberia, right? But we know that nothing is like somebody write in English, somebody come and correct it because we learn from all English. The English has evolved and continue to evolve. So people want things to go the way they think, or color coding has evolved for that matter. So Peter, how was your week? Then we'll dive into where we are.
My week was great. Just another week of being an educator and being a leader, being a mentor. Things that I've dedicated my life to do. So I learned a long time ago that said if you want to not work a day in your life, find something that you enjoy doing and do it. So I
Yes.
enjoy I enjoy leading. I enjoy teaching. It's great that it was a great segue that you say as an educator here, you don't get to ever stop learning. Um, so you don't become static. The word changes. The great thing about that is you do have to take these courses. The newest one we're taking is how to teach students who are not proficient in English. That's another master's we have to go chase. But the great news about it is like just like we call that differentiated teaching. There are a bunch of ways you differentiate teaching, where you teach really brilliant kids, or where you teach kids who struggle learning a certain way, and you learn different how the brain is developed and how different styles of learning requires different information. Um, I say all that to say that I don't degrees are good, but learning and being able to apply knowledge is even more important. And I think that's why these people in this country and the industrialized world, after you learn how things operate in our country, it operates here in the industrial countries, you realize that's what the separation is. It's a scientific method that they're very organized about how to go about acquiring information and applying information, and how to go about verifying information. It's just not they say or he said, I thought, or somebody. You have to prove it. You have to be able to predict it, verify it. That scientific method, I think, is what led them to lead the world. Um, and they applied it to their country, their constitution. Principles remain the same. The way you apply those principles change. We apply new information comes about where you have to readjust. I think one of the major issues that we have in Liberia is we don't put a lot of value in constant renewal of information and learning. And we don't put enough information in facts acquisition. So therefore, we don't care about expertise. We say someone got a degree in 1972. Well, that was not enough information back then. That's like you using a phone from 1972, or you using the same type of technology from 1972. It's just not the same thing. And I think how that links to our country is we do need to, if you see a country that's not prioritizing information, whereas the world runs on information and learning and education of our children, of the next generation. They're not preparing the next leaders. Those are selfish people. And selfish people are not the best people to lead. I would even say they're the worst type of people to lead because government work and public work, like we are involved in, is all about giving yourself up the to the community. And when someone think me first, it stagnates everything because we're in a competition with the world. That means other nations are preparing their kids, their people for competition. So you're literally setting our country up for failure when you pick selfish leaders who would take over $1,300,000 just for themselves and the government. And we still haven't built the new schools yet. We don't talk about STEM schools, the importance of new agriculture technology. When the world's moving towards GMO, how do we protect our, our farmers from growing organic plants and animals? How do we refurbish the things we lose? And we're still reliant on raw material. We've got people who are setting us up for failures. We've got people who are setting our children up for failure. So I think it's great that you mentioned the constant learning that you have to do as an educator. And as a coach, we have these things called clinics that we have to go through because everything changes. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. Guys, that's our week. That's the insight that you're welcome to the kitchen. I see there are a lot of you here now. Mahawa, um, Paris William, N. Johnson, Vakaman, Fofana, Brother Dualu. Um, Thank you. Welcome. Please share. Some of you, I see you're already sharing. I wanted to play this short video. I've had it since the last Nigerian election. And I will tell you my own experience with the last senatorial election and my own experience with the election in Liberia, elections in Africa for that matter. Saturday, we want to talk more on educating or informing our people. Kind of be like an awakening money where we wake up people. Okay. But we're gonna talk about the role of the judiciary. We will talk about the role of maybe give you a glimpse of the role of the Constitution and do a little forward thinking. How nations that have come or gotten stagnant, how they were able to get out of it. All right. So let's listen to this young man. You know, one of the black girl from Nigeria inboxed me. We've been going back and forth with this Sahel stuff that is going on. And he said to me, I know that guy very well. He's a well-to-do person. I told him that you have his video on your page. And I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, where is the video? Here it is. So we're gonna play this really quickly. Let me share this. It's about 4 minutes. So give us some grace here. I want you to listen. And then Peter and I will kind of dissect where this is coming from so you understand.
What you see I didn't jump that queue for Peter Obi. I didn't smuggle anybody into the polling booth for Peter Obi. I didn't brandish a knife or threaten anybody in my polling unit for Peter Obi. I did not snatch a ballot box, stuff a ballot box, break a ballot box for Peter Obi. I did not bribe anybody to change results for Peter Obi. I did not steal. I did not kill for Peter Obi. What I did like a candidate, I didn't brandish a knife or stand in line. From 8 in the morning on Saturday to 8 in the morning on Sunday. And when the sun got too hot and I thought of going back home, I remembered shot to death on the train to Kaduna. And I stood. And when the heavens opened and poured down rain, and I thought of running to find shelter, I remembered stuck at home because of ASU strike. And I stood through my hunger, through my thirst, through my worry about whether the children I left at home were fine. I stood because what I wanted to give my candidate, what I ended up putting in that box was not a piece of paper. What I ended up putting in that box was my hope for a country where young people would not be so disillusioned by the actions of their own parents, of their own leaders, that they will be willing to risk crossing the Sahara Desert on foot just to escape. That was what I put in that book. That was what my presiding officer refused to upload.
Do I hear it?
The future of that young boy who stood with me, who stood with us through the night, counting those votes. He was a first time voter, pregnant with hope. But somewhere between our polling unit and the collation center, that boy's future was ambushed by a politician. A politician who used biro to cross out that boy's destiny. A politician who found where that boy had written hope and wrote over it new words, hopeless. Yeah, it is a terrible thing, I tell you. When a Nigerian is kidnapped on their way to Zamfara or Makodi or Enugu, but it is infinitely worse when Nigeria herself is kidnapped on the way to the collation center. My brother, my sister, it is not Nigeria that has her foot on your neck. It is not the Fulani or the Igbo, the Christian or the Muslim that has wrapped their finger around your neck and is squeezing the civic life out of you. It is not Yoruba people who don't give a damn whether you eat, whether you have a decent house to sleep in, whether you're able to find a job 5 years after graduating. It is not North or South that spends 8 years to build one bridge or to fix one pothole in the middle of the road. I tell you, my brother, my sister, it is that politician who is willing to kill, who is willing to steal to stay in office. That is.
So, Peter, this is where we stop. It is that politician. It is not your tribe. It is not the gender. Okay. Especially to the young people. I think in my, let me come from you, Peter, because you see the word um slightly different from I kind of see it because we go on the same path, but I'm a male. I mean, I'm a female. You're a male, and in that light, let me talk to you in just from your background, your expertise, and then I'll come in. This man just chronicle why our nations are the way they are. Why we blame the people who stay in line. This is an educated man. He stood in line for literally 24 hours in a country that is rich in any way and anyhow that you can think about. If you flip it up, you flip it down, exceptionally rich, but yet poor. In fact, Kenya has the highest literacy rate in Nigeria. Nigeria have more wealth or have more wealth than what we call the desert kingdom now, the oasis of the world, Dubai. So, Peter, let me come to you.
Yeah, so what he just said was touching.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, I used to be that boy. I went through hardship. What he's chronicling is that he believed that the government, and which is true, the government is supposed to look out for the young people. And he thought when he picked somebody that he believed will help him, that person would have been given an opportunity to do that, to help. Because all our government is, that's our birthright, all of us, right? Born in the country. That's where we that's who we look up to. That's our savings, our life savings. Those are people who provide our our shelter. Those are people who provide our safety. Those are people who provide our education, the knowledge that we have to move forward. So what that man is saying that is very touching is, especially for those of us who lived in Liberia, who have left and now lived in another people's country, that was us. We were those kids like hoping one day to have an opportunity to go someplace else just to chase dreams or whatever we believed was possible. Imagine someone just taking that away. And that's what our politicians are doing. So what he's saying is evident in Liberia, is evident everywhere in Africa. Um, and there is someone in Burkina Faso right now who's looking to change that. But it's not just that. There are people right in Liberia who could and will change that if given an opportunity. So we need to talk about. So I hear what he's saying. He's saying people snatching the dreams and the hopes that we have, my hope away, because of the type of people we're picking, Yasendi, and picking the wrong type of people who do not understand or don't put a lot of value into caring for the general public and being a public servant. And it's all about them and their families. And I take that and talk about the chief of police in Liberia. That man who is supposed to be a protector, we have all these crimes going on and rape and murder. I don't remember the last time he solved a high profile crime, like burning down the Capitol building. We still haven't solved that. But this man comes out the car dressed in all white, like he's some king. Everybody wants to be a king, and it's all about them. To me, there's a theme here. Selfish people we are picking, and we are selecting these people based on some principles that we need to re-examine. Right? We believe that these people who should be leading, these people we should have a political machine in that they should provide us with pay for school, they should build hospitals, they should do, and because of that, we having the same type of people leading all the time. We're not seeking the best leaders. We don't get to ask critical questions like, how are you going to solve this problem? What's the timeline we should be looking at? Where have you solved this problem before? What if this come about? How is this problem unique to us? We don't ask the real questions. Our journalists don't ask the hard questions because everyone, like you said, Yasendi, you cannot be desperate and have a democracy, because democracy affords you choices. It affords you your voice for what you really believe.
Supposed
You,
to.
yeah, but you don't have a democracy when you're desperate. So I do understand sometimes when these people are coy, when they are when they are asking questions because their livelihood depends on it, right? You can't protest and share your grievance, even though that's a principle of democracy for you to expose the powerful by protesting. When you get hosed down with a water hose, hot water, and get beaten. So we're picking these people based on tribalism, based on fear, based on desperation. We don't have a democracy.
Thank
Until
you.
we have a democracy and the people that we are picking are held accountable, we're not going anywhere fast. And here's the thing about that, Yasendi. Only us, the people, can make sure that happens. And again, I will go back to something that I say over and over again. The onus is on those of us who are outside the country who can speak up without being beaten up. If you're sitting back and not adding your voice to this, that is not, that is cowardly. You know better, especially those of us that live in industrialized countries. You know better. And it's not okay. It's almost sad that you're watching it happen and you're saying nothing. If you don't add your voice to it, everything is political. Politics is just simply your vision of how we all ought to live. That's and politics is convincing other people to agree with you so we can pick people who go with that vision that you have of how we should all live. So everything is politics.
Thank
Everything.
you.
If it has to do with how we live as a people, is politics. So everyone should get involved.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. And those of you who are watching, thank you so much, Chair. I know this is not batching, this is not drama because we're traumatized. This is not that, but this is informational. This is for transformation purposes. But here's what I understood for this man. All right. And for the election, I studied in law like I'm supposed to do in democracy. I cast my vote for the person I thought qualified. There were so many challenges that I would have just left the line. I did not. I stood there for 12 hours. But you stole my voice. You denied me my hope. Because politicians are changing hands. They're using cash violence. They're using actual violence. We saw where just in our election in the McKinney, where they told the woman candidate, who would be calling me? Where they told the woman candidate, women are not allowed. The position, the people who held the position, although constitutionally it's the woman's right, you are not allowed, which a lot of women also agree. The president of the Republic of Liberia agreed. The vice president of the Republic of Liberia agreed and said the president told him he should do that, use the country coffers to do that. When the woman went to a certain locality to run campaign, they told her she was not allowed. It was Gio zone. Many people were not allowed in the same country, in the same town, in the same place, in the same county, for that matter. Same group. All right. Now, this is where I come to, and I'm gonna play this. I hear you people running around with this old word democracy. You do not have democracy. A minimum, fundamentally, okay? There are 4 things that is required for you to be called a democracy. Okay? We don't have it. You do not, although you have a name which is fictitious, but you have a dictatorship, so to speak. All right? So in order to have democracy, you must have equity. Okay? You must have justice. You must have freedom. You must have representation. Is that correct, Peter?
Absolutely.
You need to have that. You don't have it. Now, yesterday I wrote reminding Liberia of the Sahel. All right, of the Sahel. And I know most of them are the same and they want to protect themselves. All right. Letting you know we have been here. In fact, growing up from my early teens to my 16th, I live right next to the U.S. military base, the Mallory compound. We used to call it Surface ice cream. I used to walk from there on the road to go to school. Apart by those Marines, some of them would make a pass at me. Okay. I had this, yes, I was cute and I'm still cute. I know you're about to talk to I gotta say that part. I gotta say that
You
part.
are cute.
Huh?
I say you are cute.
Thank you, Peter. So I gotta move on a little bit. All right. So when you in a relationship, you always have to re-examine. In any relationship, you also have to grow. You gotta grow in the same direction with the same, or you gotta find other means to grow. All right. We are not growing, we're stuck. But Peter, let me play it, then we can go back to Liberia, democracy, the court system, especially what is happening now in Liberia. I'm gonna play this for you guys. Just listen up. This is, and I'm gonna try. I've been trying to get Professor Lumumba. Okay, this man was named after Patrice Lumumba. Yeah, Patrice Lumumba. I think that's he said one time he was talking. That's whom he was named after. So let's go here.
These are
Listen.
not coup d'etats. These are
I have
revolutions.
no copyright to this.
They are
This is his
revolutions
view.
because
Okay,
it
we are
has
just
become
playing that to
obvious
educate.
that those who are lackeys of France in the Sahelian region were manipulating the electoral process, were using institutions such as the judiciary for purposes of perpetuating the French agenda. And that these young men from the military came out and said, no, when the people cannot do it through traditional revolution, we are going to do it through the barrel of the gun and use the institution of the military to change the equation. And they have changed the equation. How have they changed the equation? First, they are saying we are cutting political ties with Paris. Secondly, we are cutting economic ties with Paris. We are getting out of any organization which is led by France. We are cutting off the situation that compels us to use currency that is printed in France. We are ensuring that our resources are going to be refined, and they are entering into arrangements with a number of countries, including Russia and China, to begin to build institutions and installations that are going to refine their uranium, refine their gold, so that there is value addition. What is happening in the Sahelian region is, in my submission and in the view of many independent commentators, the beginning of the total liberation not only of those countries but the former French colonies. And it is not lost on me that the leaders of those countries are sending a very clear message. They are sending the message that any institution which makes the claim that is a pan-African institution but is being controlled from outside will be defied. I remember that day, the day after the coup d'etat in Niger, and I remember the meetings that were.
Okay, Peter, I'm gonna let you take it from here. What did you gather? And talk to us. Most of the country have upgraded. The South Korea. I know South Korea had a coup. I know that. Even America had a coup.
Yep.
So
Yeah. So again, his message is great, and that's the message that we need to be amplifying. Right? There has to be a new way of doing things. Anyone who understands how industrialized nations work compares to nations that are raw material providers, they look to have, and everyone knows this is a generic talk. They look to have cheap raw materials that they bring to the industrialized country, that they turn into products that they then sell back to the world, to the people. But they manufacture these things, right? And it doesn't necessarily benefit the countries that they come from. It's almost like what they used to have in this country called tenant farming. Let me talk about tenant farming. Tenant farming was when Black people first came out of slavery. They wanted self-empowerment is when you own property, you own a house, so you don't have to just keep renting your life and living off dependent on someone else. So what these people would do was because we had no land, they had no land. They believe I could just work really, really, really hard and grow so much product in 1 year and sell it and save up some of the money. And then I'll put some of that money away. In 10 years, I'll be able to have my own farm. Then I can reap the benefits. Well, some whites saw the plan here and they stopped that plan. How did they do that? They did what was called tenant farming, where you rented the land. But the thing about the rent was they didn't tell you how much the rent was going to be until the end of until the yield came out, until the harvest. Based on how much harvest you have, they would tell you the rent is whatever it was needed for them to keep you as a slave-like condition, right? So they will give you enough food to feed yourself, feed your family, and just a little bit just for emergency, but not enough for you to sell and get a profit. This is what the Western world is doing to Africa, right? With our gold, you're muted. Yeah, I can't hear you.
I was just about to interject to say that's exactly what they're doing in Africa. Go ahead,
Yes.
Peter. Go ahead.
Yes. So they're doing that with all our precious stones, right? With all our gold, our diamonds, our uranium, everything that we have. They're taking the raw material that can be processed, and this is what he talked about. Our gold that we can be refined right in Africa and save it and use it to back up and prop up our money. They're taking this raw material and producing it in their country, turning it into materials. Here's the thing about that. You would never be able to build your country and take care of your family if that continues to happen. And there are young people who are now moved past it, like the new leader in
Burkina Faso,
right? Like Traore, that says that learn this and say, no, we're not doing this anymore. And what they're doing now is, and this is how Liberia came in this whole picture, by the way. They're trying to use other African leaders to kill that guy.
Yep.
Right? This is not the first time doing that. Okay, he said, no, we're going to keep our gold and we're going to cancel that contract and we're going to refine our own gold. And because he has a game plan, you know who else did this game plan, Yasendi? China did the same thing.
Yep. China did it. Yep.
South Korea, all these countries broke away from these powerful nations that have weapons, these Western nations, and say, no, we're going to do it ourselves.
Vietnam did too.
Saudi Arabia is doing it now. So the point is, at some point, you have to break away from these people who are exploiting you. But it's hard to do when you have people like the type of selfish, greedy, mean-spirited, not public servant leaders that we keep picking, who've been there for 42 years and not say one thing about how the general public and how they see imperialism. That's a term that is used, economic imperialism. We need a nationalist. Okay? We don't want to need a nationalist. We need a patriot. Someone who haven't spoken in a patriotic way. That means Liberia first, Liberianization, Africa first, Africanization. Okay? Edward Blyden, people like Marcus Garvey that talked about, understood how this world works.
Yeah.
And it was all about family first. And it was like, it has to be about the Black family first. So what he's saying is that we understand how they play this game now. We got the secret to the game, right? We need to empower ourselves economically first. And the way we do that is we got to stop the exploitation of these Western countries. But then our own brothers and sisters are the ones who are going to poison the people who come up with that idea. They're going to use us against us. And if we don't stand up to it, it's going to continue. Our kids are going to come to a country where people tell us, go back to where you come from. You guys are poor. When we are not poor. We just have these people that are gatekeepers. They're black-skinned, Liberian-speaking gatekeepers who cannot speak on imperialism and how the world works. You've never heard them talk about that because it's not important to them. They don't care. Their family is okay. They're now okay. They're grifters. They can steal from the public, and Mo Ali can say we spent $348,000 or
Mm-hmm.
$205,000 on a well that he didn't spend more than $15,000 on. They're grifters. And we allow these people to exploit and continue to poison the future of our children. This is embarrassing. It is shameful. And that's what he's speaking of. Westerners, outsiders using our people. Look at the Liberian economy. Who runs our economy? Lebanese, Chinese, okay, Indians. If we had a real leader that understood how to and cared, that would not be happening because we understand how that works, how to stop it. You simply economically empower Liberians. This is why when Liberians leave Liberia and come out to other countries, the ones with a lot of them thrive. Yes, Andy. I'm going to close on this, right? There was this time in America called the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance was after slavery ended, after Black people left the South where they were being persecuted, excuse me, where they were being oppressed and lynched. That means killed. They were being hung. They were not given opportunity. They were not given education down south.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them, after slavery ended and the war began, and America was focused on World War I, a lot of them left the South and came up north where they had a little more freedom. Yes, Sandy, here's why I bring up that story. When Black people could go to school, when Black people could get educated, guess what they did? They started to invent things that people never thought about.
Yeah,
Jazz
the
music,
light bulb you got today. Don't mind who names on it. Mm-hmm.
blues music, jazz
Mm-hmm.
music, poetry. They
Painting,
wrote
yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
painting, and to a point where Americans was like, "Oh my God, they're not stupid people. These people are brilliant. They became scientists. You had Frederick Douglass, you had W.E.B. Du Bois,
Mm-hmm.
who went to Ivy League schools.
Ivy League,
For
yeah.
the first time. It was like,
University, yes, yes.
these people are
Speak,
brilliant.
speak. Yes.
These people are brilliant. I mentioned that to say that. So in that time period, later on became called the Harlem Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
Renaissance is just a rebirth of Black people. Like, no, all that happened was exposed a lie. Black people were never stupid. We were always brilliant. We were always very talented.
Yep.
That's Liberia. When you sit here, and this breaks my heart, when you have people, Liberians that come here, become doctors and the top engineers and lawyers, and they're top of the profession, what's the possibility if we just create those same opportunities back home? How far can our people be? But we allow grifters, rogues, liars, manipulators, killers to siphon that dream, like just steal the dream from our people. And that's why I speak, because I know the possibility if a person like myself can escape poverty in this country, what's possible with the brilliant Liberians back home, the young boys and girls, if you give them foundational education and you give them STEM schools and science. What could they possibly accomplish? Look at what we're accomplishing now with the little bit we get. Okay, so what I'm saying is, if there's everything as a sin, what these people are doing that we're picking as leaders is beyond sinful. That's what he's saying. We are literally creating gatekeepers that keep out the best of our best out, and they look and sound like us, and they've been living with us for a long time, and they've never left. But they have always been selfish, greedy, know very little people, starting with the person you call president right now, and 90% of the people you pick in government to lead and make decisions for us.
Yeah. And another thing is, I see we have set up like these social media people to go around and show us what is happening. Listen, and you compare. America has, even as bad as it is now, I don't know what the percentage, but the last I checked, it's around 4%. I don't think we're gotten to 5% yet, unemployment. You have all of the resources in the world. You got 90% unemployment. Your people are yeser to the West. Okay. You are willing. Ghana just denied the African to build in a country. They don't want any more U.S. air base in a country. Other nations have told them to move. Now they're headed to Liberia. Now I remember this. I know somebody will come. I'm not being on. I'm glad they kind of came back later. And the thing that I see some Liberian people, especially who now are in government, saying is that Burkina Faso is where the people got training. Traore was not even born around that time. He's 37 years old. He's 37 years old. He was not born. The very people who reason we got to where we got to, that's the path that he's refusing to take. He refused. He's telling you, you are my brother. You look like me. We are on the same continent. We were put here by design. What hurt me should hurt you. Nowhere in the world that an African certain leader will threaten a Western leader, and most of the time, or even live to tell the story. Okay, you are telling us, they are telling you, okay, the whole story. And I want to say, thank God for social media, and thank God for our children, Ghana, Nigeria, Ivorian, regardless of where the president says, Ivorian took the streets and they show up. We are not listening to Central News or newspaper who ran propaganda with our leaders who were thriving. They beat Steve Biko of South Africa to death. They disguised his face. They took down Dr. Martin Luther King. They took down Malcolm X. Okay? And the story goes on and on. Patrick Lumumba. Not only did they take him down, they drag him to their country, murder him. After they done so, they poured acid on him and kept his teeth. I'm sure they poured the teeth out his head, because who the heck is he that they won the gold, they won the iron ore to build their country, to build their skyscraper? Okay, they need uranium to have the nuclear power for him to say we must be on our own. So they drag him, they took him from his country. Okay, and do you guys know Congo? Leopold, I had a Liberian minister praising this man at one point. I almost, this is supposed to be an educated woman, I almost gagged. Okay, that man owned a life over 10 million Black people, not men, women, children. You work. If you cannot move anymore, they cut up. You see that style that they were using in Liberia? He's the one that got it from. That's what he was doing in Congo.
You call it short sleeve.
Short sleeve, exactly. That's why the Liberian people, the rebel, that's where they got it from. They cut your arm, they cut your leg. When the people actually found out, and he had to leave after building his country, Belgium, when you hear say let them go home. So you tell me, I am poor. Africans from the Sahel are dying in the Mediterranean. You are not concerned about that. You say the man is using that his gold. They're telling France how to, Peter, did you know that these people, central bank is in France today? Most of the Franco country that they called. This is what we called in teaching in social sciences indirect rule. They are there. Their claws are there. So our leaders are literally puppet. So they rub the grease on there and they fan their mouths, and the rest of the nation to hell with it. But Peter, I know we started a little late, but we can end up. But let's talk about. I wanted you to actually speak about. People said a lot of Liberian people, and we're going to bring this home. A lot of Liberians have been saying, and we will always bring it home. The goal here is for us to educate one another on this weekend. Okay, as saying the Supreme Court should not have gotten involved. The Supreme Court is a separate branch of government. There are three equal branches of government. Let's talk about the Supreme Court a little bit, and I'm going to say, in short, and you can elaborate more. And we had this talk last week, and however to put it down for those of us who teach social sciences, okay, on those different governmental, not from a law standpoint, but on government. It states that the executive enforces the law, The executive is the chief administrator, is like the father of the house, who's supposed to do everything else. Okay, the legislature is supposed to be the wise people who's supposed to make laws that project the nation's future and protect the integrity of the nation. It says the judiciary is like the God who tells you this is the law. Like God gave all, like the Moses off. God gave me the law. My job is to uphold the law. That's the simplest way I can put it. Peter, how do you put it?
Yeah. So before I touch the branches of government, I want to piggyback off what you were talking about, and what what's his name that you just said? What's his name?
Patrice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was just talking about. So in any organization, if you look at the Bible, the worst person in the Bible, yes, the devil. But outside of that, Judas was a bad person because he was supposed to be a betrayer. Even in crime and in the streets, being a snitch is the worst thing you can do because you betrayed people who trusted you. Not a murderer, a betrayer. In a country, the worst crime you can commit is treason. The reason treason is such a horrible crime is because it's betrayal. Mm-hmm. We have people betraying our people, either by being complicit in it. Here's what I mean by that. Before I go to the judiciary, when you pretend like you know what's going on in this world, our job is to protect our country and our nations. All of us, a middle-aged man like myself, and those of us who are supposed to be educated, the children depend and look up to us. Our leaders, our moms, our fathers, they trust that we'll protect them. When you are allowing Western or other enemies, I shouldn't call them enemies, but competitors, to take advantage of your children's future, you are the worst type of betrayer that possibly could be. You talk with the central bank and being in Europe. Yes, they need Africans and need us to do their bidding. They need us to be exploited. And we have leaders who are allowing that to happen. And we want to call these people leaders. They're not. They're not. They're betrayers. That's not okay. I want to make that point. I want to be labeled that point. Okay? They're not leaders. They're betrayers. You can't have a person who understands that education is paramount and not build schools and pay teachers, the best type of teachers come and teach our kids and build STEM schools. You can't understand that desperation is a national security risk because our people don't have no jobs and focus all your attention on creating jobs, but you want to lobby, and we don't have hospitals, but you're lobbying and having a fundraiser to be on the UN national security. How does that help our children? Mm-hmm. Your priorities all over the place. Yes, Sandy.
Peter, 1 second. You just reminded me. I know you're going to talk about, but let me say something. I listened to Mandela Cooper the other day telling our young people, don't mind them sitting in America talking. America got people on drugs all over the place. Okay? I was shocked for a woman whose children are here in America, born here. The other one in Ghana going to school, to tell our people, yes, we have never said that not people on drugs. But what percentage is it? Is it 90%? But I'm going to stop. I'm going to talk about that story another day. Go ahead.
So if she thinks that America is bad, trade places then. Live with the woman who's working her life, that's working in the market, and Mandela Cooper, you guys take her income and she would take yours and take the opportunities you have. These people are betrayed. These people are disgusting people. We need to call that out. Mandela Cooper is the same person who was saying we're going to have a fundraiser. Why she have her Ray-Ban glasses on, thinking she's cool. That woman will only be respected in Monrovia. When she leaves there intellectually, she cannot compete with anybody else outside that country. Okay, and these are the people I'm talking about. The Joseph Boycott and Mandela Coopers of the world who are sitting there, don't have any idea how to better the lives of our people, and they have dead conscience. They don't see, it doesn't bother them at all that our people are suffering. Okay, that we have farmers market is the best thing that we have, and that the Indians and the Lebanese are ruling our country economically. That's the problem we're having. These type of people being called leaders and people applauding them while they
Mhm.
steal the future of our children. And the
Mhm.
thing is, it's a collective. It's not just her. Anyone who lived outside Liberia knows that we want to be home. We just want opportunities for our kids. Okay. She doesn't get to destroy lives, is what I'm saying. Let me get to what you at the question you asked about the
Mhm.
judiciary and the executive and the separation of power.
Mhm.
Guys, the philosopher who came up with that name is Montesquieu. This is a
Mhm.
long time ago. Montesquieu is the one who was talking about because we had kings back then. Kings make all the rules, no one questions them. They were called absolute monarchs. Absolute monarchy was not good for a country because the more brain you have to solve a problem, the quicker, the better you come up with solving problems. That's what nations with bigger people, they improve because there's more people thinking about solutions. Okay. So democracy became important because it just helped the whole, because a lot of people get to compete intellectually, and it moves the whole country up. Montesquieu believed that if you have a government, you need to separate powers. And this again came from come to me in a second that wrote um, the Constitution, but it'll come to me in a second, and I'm going to say his name. What he believed was that government has to have separation of power because power corrupts. When you give someone absolute power, they're going to take advantage of it because we're lazy as humans. Okay. And what he says was, if you create government, you create a president, you need to create three branches of government that get to check each other's power. If you
Mhm.
don't do that, if one branch of government can have too much power, the democracy is going to be destroyed. Okay. Now, why do I mention that? The executive branch, their role in the country is just to enforce laws. That's it, right? Keep the people safe. They control the guns. They get to be the enforcers. They get to be the dad in the house. Okay. They get to say, nope, you broke the law. They don't get to make laws. The legislative branch gets to make the rules. And executive gets to enforce those rules. The judiciary plays a very powerful role. They get to say the smart people who put their ideas together and debated those ideas, very, very smart people who ideas have been copied in countries after countries after countries, that came up with the rules that we should govern everyone for fairness and equality and for us to prosper. They came up with this document called the Constitution. The judiciary were given a task of saying what the founding fathers meant in that Constitution. They're the voice of the Constitution. The Constitution is the God of the country. The judiciary is the voice of that Constitution. Just like the Prophet Muhammad was supposed to be the voice of the Quran, Jesus, the voice of whatever God is saying, the pastors, the Pope. The judiciary is the voice of the Bible called the Constitution. You cannot, whatever they say, go. You cannot skirt that. It doesn't matter what the Liberian Bar Association says. You might as well go ask what does Zogo think about it on the street. It doesn't matter. What does the person driving the keke say? That's how much weight the Bar Association have to do with what was the decision is made by the judiciary. Whatever the judiciary says, so be it. There's no questioning it. None. They make a decision. Decision is a decision. Okay. Now, I don't care what's happening with the political stuff that's going on with it. If the judiciary speaks, it has to be that. You cannot have a president who says it's okay to ignore the judiciary. If it's okay to ignore the judiciary, then don't put nobody in jail because the law doesn't matter then. There are no rules to be followed because the judiciary said are the ones who said what the rules are and if the rules are constitutional or not. Okay, so when you ask what the role of the judiciary and the fact that Burkhead goes, well, I'm gonna keep working with the quorum, it's not okay. He's breaking the law. He's destroying our country. That's what it comes down to, Yasendi. He is destroying the fabric of our sovereignty in our country. The Liberian Bar Association, all they do is because we don't have a very educated populace, they are literally muddying the water to make people believe that, oh, because they have something to do with law, so they too can speak. No, they can't speak. They can't speak when it comes to this decision. Okay. They have no say in what's going on. Whatever the judiciary decides is what the country has to follow, and those are the rules that the executive has to follow and enforce. Period. And just to see everything being all over the place is so disheartening because it's destroying futures of our children. Yeah, Cindy, let me close on this. When you see these people in government, and I was trying to go to this, right? In math, anyone who did basic math in middle school, right? In a 6th grade or 7th grade. I think it's called DOMAS. Here it's called PEMDAS, right? That's a procedure that you have to follow, the steps you have to follow for your math questions to be correct when you're given different formulas, right? You're given different principles. First, you have to do whatever's in parentheses first. I think it is. The second is exponent, if I remember correctly. The third is division, then is multiplication, right? It's called PEMDAS. If you don't follow that process, your answers are always going to be wrong. Whenever they give you a math question, right, in the 6th, 7th grade, if you don't follow those procedures, if you fail to follow one first, and I remember this because I was helping my niece do some homework, and this just reminded me, like, oh yeah, it's been a long time since I did this. And her issue was she was rushing and she was missing steps, so her answer was wrong. Like, how am I getting it wrong? Well, you have to follow those steps, step by step by step. Even though you know how to multiply and you know how to divide, but if you don't follow these procedures, it's not going to work. I bring that up to say that the reason Liberia keeps failing is because we have people who don't understand that about government and about society. We bring in water and we are doing development, we're building roads. No, the countries that got developed, there are steps that they took. You first have to have a money generator. You have to put all your energy into generating money. You then have to have an educated populace. You have to go from foundational education. You have to start there. Preschool, because those foundational education is what we're going to build on. Then kindergarten, then elementary school, then middle school. Okay, you have to have the rule of law. Those things that you talked about, Yasendi. You have to have people not being desperate. You have to control your own economy. Those steps have to be followed in that order. You can't go, if I ask you right now how to make GB, Yasendi, you're not saying, oh, put the meat and the cassava in the pot at the same time. Like, what? Even though those are ingredients, you can't put them together. It doesn't work like that, does it?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
But those are ingredients. You said this goes in GB. Yeah, but you can't put them together at the same time. And then you like, oh, well, just get out the kitchen. I'll do it, right? And that's what's happening in Liberia. Like, oh, roads. We need roads. Yeah, but we don't need those type of roads now. We don't need to be building that now. We don't need to be spending money on getting a bulletproof car now. And that's the problem when you have selfish, not thinking people leading the country. And we keep running into it. They don't understand the importance of the rule of law. He doesn't get that. Okay, so he gets to think there's a luxury. We can do without that. No, you must do the exponents first. You have to have the rule of law, or you're not going to have a country. You have to economically empower our people. You have to be intentional about it. You have to be strategic about it, or you're not going to have a country. We have people who don't know how to do the nation developing math. That's what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. And guys, that's that. There are a few things that I wanted to highlight to you. Okay. And Peter's correct. That's the steps. And I'm going to go back to a few countries to show you an example. When Paul Kagame came to being, he followed the same step. When Singapore came to being, they followed the same steps. When South Korea, the same steps. Saudi Arabia, just yesterday, the same step. In fact, Saudi Arabia, because they have come into money, we used to call it a desert kingdom. The first thing they came there and say, these are natural resources, they don't last forever. But when you develop your human capital, that's so long you educate and endow one generation, that's another 5 generations. That's 100 years. Okay. And that's how it's set. He started hiring people. What was his focus? He had a plan. The focus was they were going to be a tourist center. They were going to build an oasis. Okay. What did they need? They needed engineers. They needed teachers. Okay. They needed, they needed economists. Whatever they needed to compete with the rest of the world. Do you know we plant food in America? You would think America would be the one developing fertilizer. America import most of the fertilizer from Saudi Arabia. Okay. And they found a way. They need an engineer to kind of convert things. When they train the engineer first, they brought in American teachers, they brought in English teachers from England, they brought in engineer from China. They had a 5-year plan. That's it. 5 years. You sign your contract for the first 2 years. If you do well, they renew it for you. They build housing for you. You stay there, right? So the 5-year plan was you educate the lower people, the next group educate, the next group educate. So after the first 9 years, they had engineers who were doctors who would come back and teach. Because, and Peter, what I don't understand, in Liberia, all the doctors, they go look for a job. In America, the doctors do research and development. They bring something to the table. They go into the classroom. They go to what I call it R&D, research and development. That's what they go into. They create new things to add to the word of the academia. They explore new words that people have never been before. Liberia, and you talked about this so well. Protocol, okay, theory and application is something we don't have. So because of that, people walk in and say, do you know who I am? We have you talk about Liberia, we have a Liberian doctor here. One of our largest hospital here. The head of trauma is a Liberian refugee. Okay? A neurosurgeon, one of the best that there is. You think you would have reached his full potential there? No.
So Tori, some people say his dad or someone was from Liberia and he came out, but I want to point this out, right? And it was like, why do we always lose the best ones? We don't lose the best ones. It's just the opportunity that he had where he went was different. Let's assume that he's from Liberia. There are a lot of people in Liberia who could do great things right now. We had a guy who come try to run, and you guys call him a homosexual and said he wasn't ready, it wasn't his time.
Yeah, it was not his time.
He's a he's a stranger. So you have those things, but because they're not part of your political oligarchy or your plutocracy, which is just the people with money making all the decisions. So you destroy them. So we do have Liberians. All they needed were opportunities. Imagine our children back home. Give them an opportunity and see what happens. See what happens. And we have people who are blocking them. Mandela Cooper kids would not stay in Liberia. She would get them out. For those of us who are not selfish, who have dedicated our lives to public service, we are going to call her out. Those are the people, those are the betrayers of our future and our children, Yasendi. The betrayers of our children. And those are the people who we look up to as leaders.
Thank you. So we are going to call it a day. For here, the few things that we talked about. We talked about democracy not working in Africa. It's literally a hoax where we create a layer of faith to rule them indirectly. Although they are like they're in charge, they're getting their share, and the rest of the nation, the rest of the continent, to hell with it. For y'all, the men, African men, it's a dare to you that if Peking, the Macron, will sit in France, that he ain't got nothing to tell you, I'm going to unalive your child, your son, who is telling you, you need to create space for the next generation. And it is a shame to Liberia that our president will open a door. You know, Peter, and I'm going to talk about this maybe tomorrow on the show. I am perplexed, all right? Malcolm X says, until we come to the turn to understand that the black man can create himself what the white man has created for himself, okay? If the American people, black people, 400 years of slavery, literally, can come from out of that and make a president, come from out of that with nothing. These people, some of them got 200 acres. Some of them got 400 acres. Some of them, the Yazoo land fraud, where they try to steal, okay? They have. These people work on their farm from generation to generation. 200 years is what? 10 generations. They had nothing. Even after the fought, they came back. And they said they gave them right to be citizens. They gave them right to stop slavery. They gave them right to be able to vote. They came up with a new idea called the Jim Crow. They put bounty on their hair. All white women have to do is for you to look at them. They say, oh, you look at me wrong way. You're going to do, you commit crime. So you're going back to slavery. That's how they did the chain gang. Okay? They built prison to put you in because now legally they cannot allow, you can't work on their farm free. But if they put you in prison, they can sell you around. 400 years, they came from that. They built universities. They came from that. Okay, they build museums. They came from that. They build businesses. They came from that. They are innovators. I heard an African woman saying the other day, don't call yourself an African American because all they do, they complain. I almost said, go sit down, you are ignorant. And the thing is, she was so eloquent, okay? For me, who study American history, who study world history, it aches me, it breaks me. And folks, I'm well diverse. I just want you to tell that. I just didn't study history. I studied a lot more. And I have traveled, so I know. So we're going to say this to you. You need the rule of law for the nation to thrive. You need inclusive government and civic participation for a nation to thrive. You need investment in education and human capital. I repeat, investment in education and human capital. You need your economy to be diversified. And that's why, we're speaking for Dubai. That's where they did. Saudi Arabia, that's what they did. They didn't depend just on oil. They started building, innovating. You have most of the money now come for tourism. Okay? They do what you call desalination. These people have no water. Liberia, you got water. You got water. You got land. You got forests. You got the ocean with fish. But you refuse to think, Peter. And the last thing is national identity and shared value. Those are what you need to build a nation. That's how we forecast a nation.
So let me quickly close on this. Okay. It's funny that you talked about how you just look at a woman wrong and something came to my mind. And there was this kid in American, again, learning the history. Emmett Till got killed.
Emmett Till, yes.
Because he supposedly had whistled at a white woman. There was a whole movie made up about it. I encourage you guys to go look that movie up. When two people who study history talk, I know it's going to be like all over the place.
All over the place, yes.
There was a movie called The Birth of a Nation.
The Birth of a Nation, yeah.
You guys can look that up. It's a great movie. Just about how after slavery, how the white nation looked at black people. And it's funny you mentioned how a lot of Africans who don't understand, a lot of people who don't understand the history of black people are so quick to point out what they see on TikTok or popular TV, like, oh, black people are this. Black people are brilliant. Let me leave it with this. And I think Traore in history is going to be remembered as the person who sparked the African Revolution, African Renaissance. Here's why. We can say, well, Dubai did this, and Saudi Arabia, and South Korea, and Philippines, and Singapore. He's doing it in West Africa. He is following the steps, people. What he's doing is not brand new. You eliminate the biggest bill, which is housing. So you do that, give them housing.
Yep.
You find a way to educate, like Yasendi just said, human capital. You built on that, so you educate the people. Okay, it's down for foundational education. What he's doing is not brand new. Everyone did it. Closing on this. Speaking of whistling at a white girl, there was this thing called the in America's history. I'm gonna give you a quick history lesson. It was called the Tulsa Massacre. Here's what happened with the Tulsa Massacre. Okay, it happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. At the time, there were people who were paid to operate the elevators. So when you go into the floor, they literally will operate and take you to the floor and the next person, because there was not buttons at the time. A black boy was on the elevator, and the person who was operating the elevator was a girl. On their way to the bottom floor, she claimed that he tried to touch her, whatever. So the kid was like, "What?" He ran out of there. She was screaming. Long story short, he runs away. He gets caught. He gets put in jail, and the news get out that this black animal was trying to rape this white girl. They think that black men like white anyway, trying to rape this white girl. So a mob shows up to the prison, like, let him out. We're gonna kill him. We're gonna lynch him. Someone's son, someone's brother, someone's baby. We're
Yeah.
gonna kill him. We're gonna lynch him. So a bunch of black men showed up, say, and this was after the war. These black men had guns. They was like, nope, you're not killing this one. Anyway, what happened was, long story short, there was a riot. A bunch of black people got killed. I bring up this story for a reason. Not to talk about the violence, not to talk about just the fact that they were trying to kill a black man. You talked about how where black people have come from. Jim Crow laws. Oh, you can't own a gun. You can't do this. You can't get a loan. These people were able to build us a community that was called. It was so wealthy. They economically empowered themselves. It was called the Black Wall Street.
Yep.
The houses
And they burn it down.
Yes, their houses rival white people's house. They only work with each other because economically, some of them that got the education was able to organize them. They were living better in the white suburbs. As soon as that riot happened, guess what they ran to? The whites ran to that place and burn it down and destroy all their property because they knew this was going to spark all other black people doing the same thing, and they were going to separate themselves, and they were not going to be like white people. All we need is organizations and people who understand, real people. This can happen. What is happening in Burkina Faso right now can happen in Liberia. We are picking the wrong leaders. We need to say that. And anything being passive about it, it is 100% being weak. You've been an enabler. We don't have the right leaders. Stop setting standards that doesn't make sense. Stop being tribalist. If you really have pride in Liberia, ask questions and support people. People, you're the only ones who can do that. It's time to stand up. If things continue to go the way they're going, we're not going to get any better. The people need to rise up. Nobody's coming to do it for you. You got to do that yourself. You got to make that sacrifices, and we will support you. But you have to make that sacrifice. When the government is not going the way that helps the people, every other nation that stood up, they rose up against that government and removed them. It happens in all the countries that became successful. We need to do the same thing. Thank you, Yasendi.
Thank you so much. So, guys, we're gonna call this a day. If you know, I'm not informed. Somebody just said there's a protest that is planned for July 17th. Okay, and let me warn the Liberian government. It is a constitutional right. It does not need to be amended. It is not adjusted. It does not need to be infringed on. It does not need to be interfered with. It is the people's right to show up and petition their leaders if they, when in doubt or when they feel their happiness is at stake. It is their prerogative to do so. Don't clench them on them. I saw the video yesterday, Peter, and I'm appalled about that. Apparently, when those children were protesting, a police guy grabbed one of the children by their neck and dragged them, while Liberians sat there and were calling him, dragging. They say they're stupid. The children will not be in the streets. The kids will not be in the street if their teacher school fees were paid, if they were getting education, if they were what do you call it? They were focused on learning.
Yeah. And the betrayers are the ones who are going to say, let them drag them. That's barbarism. Those are the people holding us back, and we need to say truth to power. That's barbarism. Go harm them. You can't harm people unless you're saying democracy is now okay. Unless you're saying the rule of law is now okay. That means someone can rob you whenever they want because the law says you can't rob them. Okay? So that means the strongest survive. That's not the word we have. That's not democracy. That's not a rule of law. That's not a country. That's not a nation. They have a right to protest. You have to protect them, let them protest. And protest is not supposed to be convenient for anyone. As long as they're doing it peacefully, yes, they can make you take the long way home. That's what protest is supposed to do. Learn about your constitution. Unless you're saying you don't respect the rule of law, then we can all take the law in our own hands. But that's not the world we want. People have the right to protest. If you want to change that right, change the constitution.
Mm-hmm. But why would you? Why would you want to have democracy and then teach it? Then you don't want democracy. Then you merely you're picking and choosing. You don't want democracy.
Yes.
Okay?
That's what they want.
So we are gonna call this a day. I'm gonna show you guys something really quickly. And quickly, even the LU. Look at LU. It's a dungeon. I did some video recording, and I'm gonna show you here Saturday from the school that my baby is gonna be going to. I will show that. So people, what school look like, what colleges look like. Okay, why our children are in the street and fighting. They have nothing.
That way. Shouldn't be that way.
Okay, they have nothing. Okay, here, Peter, let me see if I can show just quickly. I'm not gonna say anything, but that's just showing my particular classroom. This is a classroom in America. Okay, I'm not gonna show anything more. I'm just going to here. This is I have to send it to my how you call it. I don't know what I'm saying here, but I look like I'm in a daze. Anyway, it's not moving. That's a classroom. This is a classroom with a whiteboard, with a projector. We do different things. These kids are involved. I can't play them because I don't have a trader to play it. But that was one of my isolation right here. Okay, you see that? Different type. And these kids come to school, they eat at school, like Peter said. They have breakfast at school, the government provides it. Okay. They have lunch at school, the government provides it. All right. We give them, if they come to school, they don't have supplies, we give them supplies, especially for my homeroom. I buy them stuff. When my kids are testing, I make sure in the morning, besides eating, I bring them stuff to just motivate them, to encourage that environment. But what the kids don't even have food to eat.
Yeah, Sandy, you can do that because you get paid enough money where you can do that. When we stop paying our teachers livable wages, they'll probably do that. Sandy, we just talked about how every year we have to literally take another master's class with all these PD. We have to keep learning and learning. When was the last time we had economic enrichment for our teachers back home? We're not even paying them. Okay. And the question is, what else is the money going to? Well, it's going to pay for a generator for Yumbi Kanga Lawrence.
Yumbi Kanga Lawrence, Patrick Honda, Mo Ali, his children.
We're letting those people grift the money from our children. And we are letting it happen. And I agree with Isaac. We do need an uprising in the country. And it has to be a massive political uprising. And it has to be something that holds these people accountable. As long as we cannot hold these government officials accountable as a people, we're not going to have a democracy. And if things continue the way they are, nothing is going to change. Then we're just complaining. We're just complaining.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, somebody said, Yata said they believe protest should be spontaneous. That's not true. That is not true. We live in a nation of protest, which is America. Okay, even the Boston Tea Party that birthed what America became today. Okay, it was not spontaneous.
Okay, but Yaseli, let me address that because I think that's important what she just said. Okay, that's not a rule for protest. And what they're saying was people put the kids up to it. It doesn't matter what the motivation was. They have a right to do it, unless you're saying that the people who wrote the Constitution, you're smarter than. Okay, you cannot. All they have to do was be peaceful. They have a right.
Peter,
that's a right to do that.
Hold on one second. She's also added the reason she's saying that was because people would plan and it would be infiltrated, and deceitful mastermind with John. We know that that is correct. That is correct. It happened to us for June 8th. Because we planned June 8th. Somebody came, took it to the platform, they were bigger, and that's why the fighting guys were
Well,
cussing me
let me
for.
add
Yes.
it. Let me add to what you just said, Yasendi.
Mhm.
That's what CDC was. CDC was a protest, was a people's movement, and it got hijacked. Yes,
Yes.
that's going to happen. Okay,
Yeah.
when the people are sick of doing things, there are times there's going to have people who are not, don't have. Those are con men. So I 100% agree with her. We need to be mindful of that, but we need to do something. That means that, again, we cannot be afraid of those so-called leaders, and you need to ask them questions. You need to be a part of it. It needs to be something that is righteous, not someone trying to use it to enrich themselves or benefit themselves, because that's why we're protesting, to get rid of those type of people out of government and leadership and public service. So Yata is right. People will take movements and infiltrate and destroy the movement and benefit themselves. That's
Mhm.
what our government is right now. This is
Mhm.
what we're looking to change. So we need to
Mhm.
be very, very critical of the leaders. I 100% agree with that. We need to ask those people questions. Since Isaac is saying they're playing this protest,
Yeah.
I
If
think
you're
the
playing,
one good thing is
we can
you
have
should
Asa
bring.
here on Saturday.
Absolutely. You should bring
Mhm.
him on, ask a lot of questions. And I know
Yeah.
more about Malu or anyone else is in the opposition,
Yeah.
and let these
Mhm.
people articulate the motivation behind the protest and how they plan on executing the protest. But I do believe they need to protest, and I do believe that the leaders of those protests need to be scrutinized. It's a
Thank
right,
you.
but yes,
That's it.
protests can be hijacked.
Yes, we will say good day, everyone. Thank you for being here. We will be back on Saturday morning, 11 o'clock. The young man just texted me and said his phone was not working, so he could not go live. And that's another story. Like I told them, I'm not buying another phone for anybody else. So I'm stopping right there because it's going to just, it's a real story. Anyway, good night, everybody. That's it. I'm going to leave you with this young man, Ibrahim Touare. I come from in Liberia, we say a child belongs to the village. As such, I'm praying for this. The Lion of Sahel, okay, they told us that the Sahel was a desert. In fact, the desert has taken over half of the Sahel. It has nothing. They're the poorest among the poor, okay? But then you're telling them he's taking their gold. We didn't know they have gold. What is it of any of your concern, France, Emmanuel Macron, that now the gold in the Sahel is your business? Our children are dying in the Mediterranean. You said nothing. In fact, the last I checked, Spain will rescue them because the United Nations or other human rights organizations were looking in the middle of the night. They will release them in the middle of the night back into the river to drown. Okay? I posted yesterday. You know how many tens of thousands of African young people looking for hope. All right. And I love what the Italian Prime Minister said. She said the goal is not for Africans to cross the Mediterranean to come to Europe. The goal is for them to use the natural resources on the continent to build themselves. And if you're a Black person, if you're a Black mother, if you're a Black man, especially a young Black man, your voice is needed. Do I agree with the method in which he used to take over? No. But I will say this. What's his name? John F. Kennedy once said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible, make violent revolution possible. People get tired. If you're in a relationship where you're being abused and you can't find your way out, sometimes you find another way. Outside of Fidel Castro, the most attempted life assassination have been on this young man. And I hear Liberian people going, oh, this happy. Liberian people got training in Burkina Faso. They did. Was it Burkina Faso really? This child was not born My daughter is older than him. He was not born. And those who biking, what is happening in Nigeria, what is happening in all of Africa, in Cameroon, with Mussolini and Biya, oh, they're not going for Biya. Because Biya and his children and his group collect theirs to hell with the rest of the nation, and the French people collect theirs. And the imperialists collect theirs. With Museveni, okay, the same way, Uganda, he and his family and his son, we see his son taking bath in US dollars. Who have alive many young people who are stood up. The only reason that what the little boy name, what his name? Where's the young one? The one that been protesting, standing up. Bobby one had not been on alive because the world stood with him and continue to stand with him. That's the only reason that they have not gotten rid. But it's like somebody is telling you, I'm coming to your house to unalive your child. And you say that's okay. You think they're not going to come for you the day you disagree with them? You think you will not? Listen, I'm not afraid. I'm a Liberian, born and raised. I'm U.S. citizen. Because Liberia threatened my life and I left. But you know what? I am still a Black woman. I am a mother of a Black man. I'm a wife of a Black man. I'm a daughter of a Black man. I come from a Black continent. I love the way the Ghanaians are standing up. Today, President Mahama, they had a contract in their country for 25 years. It expired. He told them to leave. He not renegotiating with them because it has not changed the lives of Ghanaians. They got to go. He will find new partners. They have to go. Now, folks, Baito, I will see you in a moment. Give me 1 second. Let me get off live. Okay? So, I have been here. I'm supposed to be here 1 hour. I've been here 2 hours. So, I'm going to go. You'll have a good day. We'll see you Tuesday night, Thursday evening, and Saturday morning. God bless all of you. Thank you for listening. Okay? I have my letter on my page to all of you. Please go ahead and read it. Make sense of it. Yes, I read it. All right? I need you to remember Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso well, one of the countries that stood with us. I wrote this yesterday and I'll read it aloud before I go. In 1990, during the lead up to the Gulf War, President George W. Bush made it clear that Liberia was not a strategic priority compared to U.S. interests in the Middle East. I heard it with my 2 ears. I was 19 going to 20. He was coming from one of the army bases, and he would ask a question. That particular statement was met with and countered by the congresswoman today that we call Auntie Maxine Waters. That is first time I heard her. That was the first time I've seen a Black woman vocal and as a lawmaker, so powerful. And Shirley Jackson of Texas, those were the people who spoke for us. Okay? Now, it says, that moment underscore how easily African nation can be discarded on the global stage. President Bouazizi is fully aware of this history. It is a reminder that we, as Africans, must strengthen our bonds of brotherhood and solidarity, because in time of crisis, we cannot always rely on external power to value our lives and our sovereignty or our future. And I listed African nation who answered this call. I had an opportunity. Yes, folks, you don't know this. I had an opportunity to work with some of those ECOMOG, the first group that came to Liberia. I was there when the Nigerian ECOMOG came, the Ghanaian ECOMOG, the Guinean. In fact, when I worked for the airline, I worked with a lot of Guinean and Ivorians. Okay, I did. So I'm going to name a few to you. All right. List of Africans that stood with us during Liberian civil conflict. Several African nations actively participated in the peace process, primarily through the ECOMOG Community of West Africa State Monitoring Group, the ECOMOG, and subsequent peacekeeping effort. Okay, African nations involved in Liberia peacekeeping. I'm not talking about the money. When you set the fire and bring the water in the water hose, it does not matter. I'm not talking about that. All right, $10,000 did not bring the war. $10,000 did not train all of those people. All right, $10,000 did not watch us go anywhere. So let me, because some of you will come try to back up because you are in power. Yesterday, you were this way. Today, you are that way. I'm not interested. What you're going to get from me is consistency. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start in Nigeria. Nigeria provided the largest contingent of troops and leadership with ECOMOG. All right, I got an opportunity to meet the ECOMOG general. Okay, both my aunt and my uncle work in air traffic control, and I work in services. Okay, I'm not going to tell you where. Okay, Ghana contributed troops and held the initial force command. Okay, Guinea supplied troops and supported regional medication effort. Not only did they had airlines that were still moving in and out of Liberia for Liberians to move around, out of leave the country they wanted to, besides Westwa. I want you guys to remember, because I work for the airline, so I know what I'm talking. Okay, somebody came under my post yesterday and said, where do you get your stuff from? I am the freaking primary source, if you even know what that is. I am. Meaning I'm an eyewitness. I know that. I was not a kid. I was already out of high school. There we go. Then we say Ghana, right? I mean, Guinea. Sierra Leone. President Amado Bio were in Liberia. Okay, Sierra Leone participated in a peacekeeping operation and hosted refugees. You hear me? Then we went and destabilized them. Okay, Gambia contributed personnel to ECOMOG missions. Mali provided troops and supported ECOWAS initiative. Burkina Faso participated in regional diplomatic efforts. Niger contributed peacekeeping in mediation roads. Okay. Now we go to Senegal, deployed troops during a specific phase of the conflict. Benin participated in ECOMOG operation. Togo engaged in mediation and peace talk. Guinea-Bissau contributed to peacekeeping effort. Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire involved in regional discussion and hosted peace negotiation. Not only that, in 1990, Ivorians took us in. I remember because people have said my uncle was spotted in Ivory Coast. Okay, I was one of the very few Liberians to have gone to Danale. It was not even open. It was bushes. No people gave me place to sleep. They hosted me. My funny gear that I learned when I was a kid, because they speak gear and the gear is very deep, it almost like they're sinking, but I could understand it. Okay. The only thing I remember is my people telling me if they give me food in the country part, I'm not eat it because they can pull. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. So now, these nations under the auspices of ECOWAS and later with support from the United Nations play a crucial role in stabilizing Liberia, facilitating ceasefire and supporting democratic transition. Let's not forget. That was my word. Okay. And I will tell to you, I will read this in the middle. I posted this in the middle. And you know what? I'm not afraid to speak up. I study U.S. history. Okay. I'm not. This is what we were told when we were kids. And if we study war history, World War II, that enlightened what became the Pan-African movement, what brought to bear the Kwame Nkrumah, the Patrice Lumumba, the Nnamdi, I call his name correctly, Akazawi of Nigeria, the father of Nigeria, the father of Pan-African, of Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya. When you talk about these people, this is what we were told strategically, okay? Strategic ally, forgotten partner, a lesson in history and sovereignty. Liberia has long held a place of strategic importance to the United States, particularly during World War II. Positioned on West Africa coast, Liberia became a vital logistic station for all Allied forces. You remember we have the Axis and the Allied, okay? All Allied forces. In response to the strategic need, the U.S. government established military base in Liberia. On Liberia soil, mostly known at, right behind Surface Ice Cream Shop. They call it the Mallory Compound, but we call it Surface Ice Cream. They have Surface Ice Cream, okay? I remember I spent my teenage years there, but I'm going to stop here today. I'm not going to give you no more. So I'm going to leave that right here. If you want to go on my page, it's there. I posted it yesterday morning. It has at least 100 people. Mostly those who are making comment are people who are informed, intel, understand where I'm coming from. It's not a condemnation. It's about revisiting your relationship. It's about what do you prioritize? The white man planned 100 years in advance for his children, for the next generation. What do our leaders have in store for the next generation? I'll talk to you later. I say enough. Good day, folks. I will leave all of you with this lion, this giant of Africa. Yes, yes. I have a son. He's black. I'm a mother of black girls. Nowhere in the world that an African leader will threaten an American or a European leader and say to them, and we are okay with it. And they will blatantly say in your face, thank God for social media. Had it not been for social media, they would pin this child black and blue, and people will believe it. And they put bunting, already put bunting on his head. Can you imagine they're dishing out 5 million to one person to unalive his brother? Somebody's husband, somebody's father, somebody's child, a son of Africa. This for me is the lion of the Sahel. The people poor, but you're not living there alone. You say you're protecting them. Protect the one that dying in the Mediterranean. Protect the one that is escaping to go to Myanmar. Okay? Protect the one that running away to China for job. Protect the one that going live and work in the sun in Dubai. They need that. Build something. Let's cut the unemployment down from 90 to at least 5-10%. Let the people live. Let the children thrive. Let the children dreams. Your kids sleep. Let our children sleep. Good day, folks. I'm out.